First of all, I think Rahul gave a great case study on ONDC and what the platform is actually, the integrities of it, the nitty-gritties, and how it operates. And of course, when I was listening to Deepak talk about, India's story, I couldn't help but remember, the iconic era of the 1950s post-independence. And I know I've been allotted time, but I'll try to keep it quick because I know it's late evening on Friday. But, there was a movie called Mother India. Now we are talking about digital India. We have come a long way. There was a movie called Roti, Kapra aur Makan. Now, we are talking about completely different things. We are talking about cloud. We are not looking for Makan. We are talking cloud space. We are talking Metaworld. There was a movie called Do Biga Zameen. That was the India of 60, 70 years ago. Now, where are we today? It's a transformation that cannot be captured by using statistics and facts. It's a nation that has transformed itself on its own self-reliance. As Mahatma Gandhi used to say, right? Self-reliance. We have to rise ourselves by the shoestrings of our own boots, right? That is the history of India. But if we put it into larger context today, let's take this back, not just about India, about humanity. Billions of years old this planet is. Millions of years old the humanity is. In whatever, shape, form, from Neanderthals to humanoids to Homo sapiens. But what changed? And what is the driver of that change? Some is natural growth, which we call evolution. Some is more man-made, principled, and directed growth, which we call innovation. From the days of cognitive revolution, when we could actually envision and use our mental capacities to make reason of reality. That was the first revolution we experienced in humanity's history. Then came the agricultural revolution. It took hundreds of millions of years from one to the other. Agricultural revolution allowed us to create communities and societies, and from nomads we became more stable. Then came your scientific revolution. Not that many years ago, right? 100 odd years ago, if we talk 150 odd years ago, when an apple fell on Newton and then suddenly the law of gravity came into existence, right? Then came this industrial revolution of 100 years that we talk about. From assembly line production of T-model Ford vehicles to steam engine, all these things, that's only 100 odd years ago. Now we are in technological revolution. A revolution which is rapidly changing day-to-day life. From the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep, we are completely engrossed and controlled by technology. Technology, if I just give 3 examples, right? Now AI has taken over the need for a cognitive function of humanity and the decision-making needs. From very small things like Google Map to now ChatGPT. Imagine, and wait for another year now. After ChatGPT, we have seen Google, Microsoft, everybody's jumping into this. Give it another year, this will become something that everyone will have. Devices will improve to capture all the data and download it as well. That's just AI we are talking. Talk about IoT. It has changed the relationship between man and machine today on a factory floor. Industrial automation, Industry 4.0. Now talk about Metaworld. This has really turned the world upside down. Nature of existence, nature of reality. What Plato, Socrates, Aristotle back in the day used to argue about, what is nature, what is the meaning of existence. We have literally gone back in a circle now. What is reality now? Is it the physical or is it the Metaworld? Not Meta as a company. But that's the transformation we're talking about. Now, when we talk about India at 2047, 100 years out, Is it okay for us to say we know where it will be? We have no idea. We didn't know 5 years ago, 10 years ago where we will be. How can we say where we'll be in 10 years? But one thing we have to realize that technology, economy, society, politics are interlinked. Nothing develops by itself in a silo. If you look at the examples of history, and the crazy part is my background is I'm an investment professional guy running a private equity background, ran a fund, but I look at history in a very different way because it teaches us while we are in the government system that when we are developing something new, what should be the resiliency in the products, in the programs, in the schemes that we are building. Capitalism works fantastic. It was not the British Empire that conquered India. It was a British East India Company. For the 200 odd years that they were here, it was the first 100 years, it was a British East India Company that was ruling it. It was on those ships that the missionaries came to protect their trade and their cargo. It was only later that the empire said, okay, we'll manage it. Capitalism. First joint stock company was a Dutch joint stock company. It's not King Ferdinand or Isabella funded Columbus's trips. It was a private risk money that funded these voyages back then. So capitalism works, fair enough. And I think that's the way we need to look at economy and society. But if we look at US, for example, let's talk about unfettered capitalism. When we open up these sectors, what happened with the Rockefeller and Standard Charter? Not Standard Charter, Standard Oil, right? Monopolies are created. When we look at socialism, or Karl Marx's perspective, right, from each according to their ability to each according to their need, what happens? We create distortions and we do redistribution of wealth. That model didn't work. What is India doing today is very unique in its nature. We have moved from license Raj to an economy where we are democratizing economic activity to a level unseen in the history. All the platforms that we're building today, be it ONDC, be it UPI, be it Aadhaar, be it CoWIN, be it ULIP, Unified Logistic Integrated Platform, be it Gati Shakti, multimodal connectivity platform. What is that government doing there? It's democratizing by building the platforms itself. It's not letting one corporate build it and monopolize it. It's ensuring that everyone can have access to the platform and participate in the growth as an economic agent in the society. That is a unique part of India today. And that's what we need to focus on, is India is not going to get ahead of China or US, and as we, Rahul was talking, the internet penetration, e-commerce right now is so low. If you look at it, 25 years down, with more penetration, economic activity will boom and will be biggest. Yes, that's assuming the status quo. That's assuming that that is the right model to follow. What we need to focus on is the bigger picture, that now technology is critically important both as a tool, but is sustainable development same as responsible development? Is development for the sake of development the answer to humanity's problems? India can create the pathway for new ways of development, because we have the promise, we have the opportunity, but we have the problems. We have the endowment of the youngest population, largest population, which can be the economic engines of growth. But we have an aging population. In 20 years, 30 years, this youth of today will become senior citizens of tomorrow. How will we sustain it? How will we manage it? Where will we provide the social security benefits? How will we get out of that vicious circle of poverty? How will we really sustain ourselves as a top developed economy on par at a per capita GDP? That doesn't mean that everybody moves from a village to the city or everyone starts doing high-tech innovations it means we have to provide opportunity to every segment of society in the localities that they live in. And that's where digitization is critical. That's why it's very important, and where MeitY is very heavily focused on, is that how do we reduce the digital divide? If you look at today, 1/3 of the population globally suffers from digital divide. And digital divide doesn't only, connectivity doesn't only allow you to do e-commerce and transact and economic activity. It empowers you. It empowers you to make better decisions, make more choices, create more optimality in your setup. That's the focus. Now, how do I take this opportunity? Abhi UPI has done that, right? आज एक पान वाला भी, ठीक है, सब्जी वाला भी वो अपने ठेले पे से आपको UPI दे देता है कि सर इस पे कर दो, right? That's the whole benefit of that. Now with NDHM, National Digital Health Mission, bringing medicine to the people, using telemedicine. With the UPI, abhi jo in the COVID times we saw with Jan Dhan bank accounts, being able to transfer direct benefits to the most marginalized, most needy population. That's the beauty of India. That yes, economic growth is a byproduct of good government. From, and I won't get into the non-relevant topics, but if you look at demonetization was one aspect. But let's talk about e-rupee. We are the first country now, globally, to look at it, which is rolling out e-rupee, right? That creates more efficiency in the marketplace. Those are the elements that we need to focus on. Now what MeitY, within our ministry, 5-6 things that we are working on. One, of course, is, we have a mission called Bhashini, which is a national language translation mission, under which we are trying to create a corpus of Indian languages and build a big repository and bring more connectivity and local heritage and knowledge onto the platform. Second, of course, is the AI, artificial intelligence mission we have. Under that, we have got 6-7 governing principles, ethical AI, responsible AI, etc. And so building a framework around AI. Third is, of course, the data policy. How do we make sure data localization, privacy, security, anonymization, while allowing private sector to operate is critically important. Fourth, of course, we have various PLI schemes, production linked incentive schemes that we have launched to attract more private sector into the game. All these things are happening. Now I'll focus a little bit on the startup because Deepak talked about the big picture, so I won't throw the stats here. But Rome wasn't built in a day. And this ecosystem that we talk about, that India has built, from being known as the land of snake charmers to home of unicorns. There's a lot of work that has gone behind it. Government, of course, created a lot of framework and policies, but more importantly, private sector has engaged. Today, government is doing 3 things. One, we are not only funding startups, so we have various funding schemes and programs. All the way from idea validation, we give funds. We give funds for prototype creation. We give funds of up to 40-50 lakh rupees for commercialization. That's the first phase, very early stage startups. Then we have funding for acceleration, where we do matching funding on the same terms as the private investor. And I'll tell you, one of the unique things that the government, that we have done, is under this new scheme that we launched, government is not giving it as a grant. We are taking equity in the startup. Now from being a grant-giving institution to actually being an investment partner in the growth. That's a unique twist that we have built into this model. And of course, after acceleration funding, we have a funding allocation for hypergrowth. We have a fund of fund managed by Can Bank currently, where we invest in VC funds that invest in electronic hardware and other startups. So all the way from idea level to hypergrowth fund of fund level, we are providing funding. But aside from funding startups, we are onboarding startups. Look at GEM. GEM has special provisions for startups to get registered. And government has procurement guidelines where startups do get a lot of benefits now. And I'll give you a couple of case points that we are working on. So MeitY Startup Hub, we launched a program with Border Security Force, BSF. They were looking for, under Atmanirbhar Bharat vision, finding solution for defense from Indian startups. They are looking for anti-drone technology, underground tunnel detection technologies, remote area monitoring. We actually worked with them, identified startups. They took them for field trials and testing in the border areas. And after that, they actually gave a procurement order on a pilot basis to one of the startups for anti-drone technology. Now that is how government is actually working with startups and procuring their solution. And I can give you many case examples such as that. In a fintech space, for example, Post Office Payment Bank is working to make sure that we can provide credit facility to the last village in the last town. How? Because Dakia network, now Dakias use smartphone. But Post Office doesn't have the mandate to do credit facility. So they came, the Post Office Payment Bank, let's figure out some fintech startup solution which can be onboarded onto the Dakia network and that the credit facility can be made available to the last mile person. Now those are the kind of solutions that we are onboarding from startups. And third thing I'll tell you before I close on this is under India's G20 presidency, a lot of things are happening. At MeitY, we are leading the Digital Economy Working Group. Under that, we have three things. One is the cybersecurity, digital scaling, and digital public infrastructure. Aside from negotiations and building consensus on these three areas of critical importance, we have also launched an initiative called Digital Innovation Alliance. What that initiative is doing is we are trying to bring the startup ecosystem from all the G20 nation plus 9 invited guest countries come together on one platform. As our Honorable Prime Minister said, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. So in this, we are looking at agri-tech, fintech, health tech, ed-tech, cybersecurity, and circular economy. Top startup from all these nations will be run through a virtual acceleration program for 3-4 months through us. And in August, they will be showcased at the Digital Economy Working Group meeting and at Mega Summit in Bengaluru. That's the approach we are trying to take, that how can we bring startups together from different countries, give them opportunity, give them funding, give them pilot projects, so they can all scale and solve humanity's population problems at population scale. But in my closing, I'll just say that first, Sanjeev, thank you so much for this opportunity. And my only request is that government can only provide enabling framework and catalyze innovation and seed the sapling, but we cannot grow the tree. We cannot be the private sector partner. We cannot be a private agent. We need the corporates. Corporates have to get involved. They have to contribute through their mentoring, through their expertise, through their access to their plant and their financial credit facilities to these startups, because this is a nation building effort. This is an effort where all of us have to work together. So Deepak ne kaha na ki so the parents will be happy to marry their daughter to a startup guy, right? So we need to have more successful startups. We need to have more support from the corporates and from the banking partners to support these startups. And that's where I'll end today. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Last village, last town. Sustainable development is responsible development and development for the sake of it. Mr. Vijay, thank you so much for leaving us with these interesting thoughts to ponder on. I'd like to invite Mr. Prasanjit Roy Chaudhary, Managing Director and Zonal Head, Local Corporates and Middle Markets, India, Standard Chartered Bank, to present a memento to Mr. Jeet Vijay.